Hello and welcome to BTN's Take 10 podcast. This is Alex Roux of BTN.com, and this is episode 3, the finale of 2018 BTN Bus Tour edition of the Take 10 podcast, where we wrap up all the interviews that we collected on the BTN Bus Tour. We have episodes 1 and 2 that came out in the last couple weeks, where we, on episode 1, moved through the Eastern Division of the Big Ten and talked to 4 players. Episode 2, we had some crossover and talked to a couple of Eastern players and then a couple on the West as well. It's another 4 interviews, and then we'll wrap it up on this episode with 5 interviews to close it out and get us officially moving into football season, which starts here on Thursday this week with Northwestern and Purdue. So kind of put a cap on the off season and a cap on another great BTN bus tour, which was really a lot of fun, talking to 13 players and getting to know them and their backgrounds and telling those stories and to you, the listener, here on the Take 10 podcast. So like I said, we'll get into 5 interviews here on the show, and we started off in Nebraska with linebacker Mohamed Barry. After that, we move along to Iowa City and talk to defensive lineman Parker Hesse, followed by Justice Williams, a wide receiver at Illinois who was converted from linebacker. And after we talked to Justice Williams in Illinois, we hopped on over to Purdue and talked to DJ Knox for the second consecutive year on the Take 10 podcast on the bus tour and caught up with DJ. Then we wrapped it up with an interview with Tommy Doles, a lineman at Northwestern, whose really enlightening conversation closed out the bus tour in style. Before we get into those 5 interviews, subscribe to the show if you haven't already. You can do so on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean. We're now on YouTube as well. So if you're listening on SoundCloud right now, hop on over to one of those platforms and subscribe so you don't miss a future episode of the Take 10 podcast. And you can also check out episodes 1 and 2 of the 2018 BTN Bus Tour on any of those platforms as well. So without further ado, let's kick it over to Lincoln, Nebraska for our first interview out of 5. Talk to, as I mentioned at the top, Husker linebacker Mohamed Barry. That interview with Mohamed starts right now. Pleased to be joined here in Lincoln, Nebraska following Husker football practice by junior linebacker Mohamed Barry. Mo, thanks for joining me, man.
I'm thankful to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here with you as well. It's good to be here, to kind of see what all the hype's about.
Yeah.
Up close. We can feel it, all the way over in Chicago with the change of leadership here. But just tell me right off the bat here, what's it been like on the ground just with Scott Frost in charge now, the energy around here?
I mean, he brings expectation to this program. I think when you have a figure like him who has accomplished many things he's won championships for this program, has done so much for this program, and he comes back here and he expects you to do the same, and he did it here, so he knows how what it takes and how it was done when they did it back in the 90s. And it just, that you feel comfortable and that he knows what he's doing, and his leadership, you just follow. Yeah,
and we'll definitely get more into some Huskers football specific talk in a little bit here, but you were suggested as a guest to me for this podcast because you got, a unique background, and I want to get into that a little bit. So if you could take me through, where you grew up and how football became a big part of your life, just take it from the beginning for me.
Well, I'm from Metro Atlanta, Georgia, and I was moving all around Atlanta, and but when I was born at like age 2, my mom took me to Africa, and I stayed there till kindergarten or so. And that was the biggest part. I lived with my grandma there. She wanted to make sure I knew my culture and knew my language, religion, all that. And when I came in the States, English, I didn't even know English, so I had to learn English, was in ESOL classes and stuff like that. And started playing football in the 5th grade and fell in love with the game. My favorite players at that time was Tom Brady, Michael Vick, Terrell Owens, and from there on, I played at South Gwinnett my freshman year in high school. Then transferred to Grayson, playing the Grayson Powerhouse, which right now I think they're the number 4 team in the nation for high school football. But Played over there under Mickey Kahn and Robert Kendichi, who's now with Arizona, #1 draft pick, and it brought me here to Nebraska.
Yeah, and you weren't someone who picked up the game later in life and just were a natural for it. You obsessed. You were like a gym rat for football, right? Coming up.
Oh yeah. When I was I played in 5th grade. I was tall, lengthy, just not coordinated at all, but I was fast. And I just was determined on every play. So my coach put me at defensive end. I would just run off the edge, didn't care about nothing, just wanted to get the ball and get sacks. And then when I came back, I used to just do a whole bunch of push-ups. I seen players, I would YouTube things, and I see players talk about how much they did push-ups. Herschel Walker saying how much he did push-ups, sit-ups, and stuff like that. So when I was young, because I didn't have no one to train me, so I just trained myself. And when I came back, 6th grade year, people thought I just transformed my body. So to do that at a young age gave me confidence, and I just do that every year. I want to come back the next season like a different person.
Right, and you mentioned earlier your grandmother and how big of an influence she was in your life, and your mom as well, right? They both kind of brought you up, right?
Yeah, my grandmother and my mother, just strong women in my life. My mother who had to do the load of caring, of raising me as a man, and providing for the family. And my grandmother, who's been in my life for the first few years that I remember. And that was all by choice. And it was just those two women and my big sister, who's right now, she's a nurse practitioner. And just all those 3 women in my life just did so much for me. And, my grandmother passed away May 7th. And, just knowing that she's a great woman, she gave me all she had, and things like that is real special.
And I'm sorry to hear that, but obviously, she did a great job bringing you up, like you said.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned earlier learning English, and it was kind of difficult for you coming back to the United States. I saw in an article in the Omaha World Herald that one of your you taught yourself to read, and one of your favorite books was Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter. You're a Harry Potter fan?
Yeah, I used to be a Harry Potter fan, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. I used to dream a lot and fantasize a lot. So I just like things like that. And then Matt Christopher books, too, were my favorite.
I read those growing up, the Matt Christopher.
Yeah, Matt Christopher. I couldn't get enough of those. I love that, Football Nightmare, stuff like that.
There you go. All right, so we'll move along a little farther in your life now. Growing up in Georgia, like you mentioned, what brought you all the way here to Nebraska? How did that recruiting process play out, and why'd you pick here?
Well, my recruiting process was quite different, because I had factors of eligibility and things like that took away from some of the offers that I had. Coaches dropping offers and stuff. Initially, I was committed to Wisconsin, and was determined to go there because that was one of my dream schools. When I picked out schools when I was younger, I always said I wanted Miami, Florida, Georgia, and Wisconsin for some reason. And that was one of my dream schools, so I wanted to go there. And it just didn't work out. They didn't give me the chance. They thought it was academic liability, as they stated in the newspaper. So they just so that didn't happen. And then I got the call from Nebraska, and Miami was recruiting me hard, and then Kansas State, and my friends at Duke, Shelley, who playing right now at cornerback at Kansas State, Isaiah Zubru, starting wide receiver for Kansas State. I was close with them, so I just committed there with them, but I wasn't feeling it at the end, so it was between Nebraska and Miami. And the biggest thing was Coach Bray's consistency. When he was recruiting me, he was never high one day, low another day. He was consistent, and he was relentless in recruiting me. And my mother liked him. She didn't even see Nebraska, but she just knew it was a better place than Miami for me. And we just went with Nebraska then.
And you mentioned the process with Wisconsin, the way you mentioned it, it seems like you still carry that with you. Do you have a chip on your shoulder to this day about that?
Oh yeah, it's just that you could say a kid is an academic liability before he becomes in college. It's just mind blowing. I took that to heart. So now I'm 2-time academic all conference, and freshman year I had a 3.6. So stuff like that I wanted that to not even be a factor in my college life, because I chose to let that be in my high school year. So I do look at that school, and I do remember that. So yeah.
So now that Coach Frost is here, things are looking up, but there's definitely been some struggles in the program during your time here. What would you say your biggest challenge here personally has been for you that you've had to overcome here?
Personally, just understanding how patients work, and just understanding the day-by-day process. People preach about the process and day by day, and patience, but they really don't understand it until it's really they really have to be patient and have to look at it as a day-by-day thing. So it's just being in that situation where I had to be patient and had to focus day by day on the task at hand, play by play, and just the things I do that's in front of me, and living in the moment and stuff like that. And that's the biggest thing. I think the most helpful thing that I would take from my past few years here.
Yeah, you mentioned that patience, and now people are looking to you to have a larger role in that linebacking core this year. How do you see yourself fitting into this new defense?
I see myself as I'm an effort guy. I love the game, and I'm gonna give it all for my teammates and this program, and for my family, and for God. So. It's just, my love for the game will fuel my effort. So I will always be an effort guy. Just communication, communicating out there, flying to the football. Like Coach say, no fear of failure, a desire to play with desire to excel, no fear of failure. So it's just stuff like that. Like I feel like could bring a lot to this defense. I feel like my teammates know that too. So it's just us getting our chemistry down, which we have been, and just can't wait for the first game.
Yeah, so Scott Frost arrives, everyone sings his praises. Like, you won't hear a bad word about the guy, but I want to get a little more unique perspective from you as a linebacker. He's a former quarterback, but he also was a former safety in the NFL. So do you see, like, when he coaches and his coaching style is switch that flips, does he go, like, from an offensive coach to a defensive coach, or is it all kind of on at the same time? How do you see that from your perspective as a linebacker?
I just think he's a real masculine man. You know what I mean? I just, in everything he does is tough. It reminds me of my high school coach, Mickey Kahn, who's right now he's with Clemson coaching. But just that tough mentality that you could tell that he once was scout team for the black shirts with Grant Wistrom and all that. You could tell that he's been molded by Coach Coach Osborne. So he's very masculine, real. It's encouraging. So you understand that's your head coach, and you have to play like that, like how he coaches you and how he approaches you. He don't want to see you make a play and it's just a routine thing. He want to see the passion. He want to see the love for it, and he want to see hustle, effort, passion, and just black shirt football and stuff like that. So he preaches that on offense and defense. But I think everyone is just I think they respect how masculine he is and macho, and how he wants us to bring it every day. And you just have to have that intensity in your own life and how you play the game. Yeah,
people can't see it, but your eyes lit open. You were talking about him. That's kind of what I think everyone is excited to see out of Coach Frost, is the passion he brings out of you guys. All right, Mo, we'll wrap it up with a question about this upcoming year. Because on one hand, kind of people preach that, maybe in the media or whoever preaches that Rome wasn't built in a day. You guys were 4-8 last year, so maybe in year one there's some patience to be preached, but then again, you see how quickly he turned things around at Central Florida. So what do you think reasonable expectations are for you guys in year one under Scott Frost?
Well, I mean, everywhere is different. Miami with coach that they got from Georgia. What's his name?
It sucks at my tongue.
Rick.
Ricks, yeah.
Rick. Mark Rick. So they changed it around in a year. So, but over here, our expectation is all up to us. And at the end of the day, Coach Frost is a great coach. This is a different staff, and they bring a lot of great things for us. But it's up to us, the players that play the game, and that determines how the season's going to go. So, I think to be realistic is we just have to take game by game, but I think the biggest thing is having an explosive offense, which I think we will have this year, and a defense that is something not to mess with. You know what I mean? A defense that opposes his will, no matter if it's bending or not. But when we never break, and another team that gives max effort. And that's what you will see. We will give max effort, and we will never break even when we're bending. And that's the most important thing for this year.
Right.
The number is going to take care of itself.
All right, well said, Mo. Appreciate you sitting down with me. Excited to see your emergence as you continue your career here at Nebraska. And thanks for joining me, man.
Yep.
Appreciate you. All right, thanks once again to Mo Barry for joining me. And it was really interesting, just getting to know him and his background and hearing about his growth as a Husker. And he figures to be a key piece going forward for that linebacking core. So best of luck to him going forward. Now we'll toss it over to Iowa City and Parker Hesse. We get into his high school transformation from a quarterback to a college defensive lineman, which is certainly very interesting. And we talk about his Iowa career and path and all that good stuff. So I'll stop talking about the interview and get into the actual discussion. It's Take 10's discussion with Parker Hesse. All right, so I'm very pleased to be joined in Iowa City following Iowa's practice, a rainy Iowa practice by Hawkeye senior defensive end Parker Hesse. Parker, what's up, man? How's it going?
Going good today. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you guys just wrapped up a really wet, soggy practice outside. Just as out of curiosity, do you like practices like that? Is that fun to change it up a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a defensive lineman, that's ideal. It's not as hot. Maybe if you ask guys handling the ball, I'm sure they have a different opinion, but I certainly enjoy playing in the rain. Yeah,
and I wonder if Coach Ferentz maybe had you guys do that just to get ready for the elements, because you have this beautiful indoor facility, but he chose to go outside, so I assume he wanted to maybe prepare you for what you might see down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, football's played in all sorts of conditions, so that's how we practice too.
And you mentioned when we were walking in here that class starts today for a lot of your teammates. Luckily for you, you got kind of a lighter load. So as a grad student, take me through what your academic responsibilities are, as you kind of go in your final lap here on campus.
Yeah, I mean, this semester I'm lucky I got kind of a lighter load, as you mentioned. So class is Tuesday, Thursday, pretty much all day Thursday. But, that provides a lot of free time, recovery work, hanging out at the house, and, getting ready to come back for meetings and stuff.
For sure. And I assume at this point you're kind of ready for the season to get here, training camp. It's always a grind no matter who you are. So you ready to get rolling here with season starting in a couple weeks?
Absolutely, yeah. We've been looking forward to games since last season ended, so we're getting close here. We're getting really excited.
For sure, and we'll talk about the upcoming season in just a moment here, but first I want to get into your background a little bit, because you definitely have a unique background as a defensive end. You actually came up as a quarterback in high school, and I just thought that juxtaposition is hilarious, because you were the one getting sacked probably in high school, and now you're the one sacking guys, sacking quarterbacks. So how did this transition come about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, I was lucky enough come from a smaller school, so I played both ways. In high school so I played defense some too. But yeah, playing quarterback is a lot of fun, getting to touch the ball every play. And, I think it's really helped me, as a football player, no matter where I am, just because it kind of gives you an understanding or an overview of the game as a whole. But yeah, if you'd watch me, I kind of played quarterback like a defensive end. I was carrying it more than I was slinging it. So
how much lighter are you now, or were you then than you are now?
I think my senior year of high school I was probably like 210.
And what are you at now?
I'm 260 now.
Okay, so still a pretty big guy for a quarterback, especially small town. Are you glad to be kind of on the other end of the sack and the quarterback relationship now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those guys, they got a lot of pressure. They got a lot of things that they have to worry about. Defensive end, playing D-line's one of the most fun positions. Put your hand in the dirt, and get after it every play. So, that's something that I certainly enjoy, that kind of transition.
For sure. I want to get into your path to Iowa City a little bit. You're an Iowa kid. So how did the Hawkeyes take interest in you, and why did you end up choosing them over some of your other suitors that you had, especially in state here?
Yeah, I wasn't being too heavily recruited up until right before my senior season. I came to camp here, had a pretty good camp, and then after that there's a lot of interest, but I still didn't get an offer until into the season. They're kind of waiting to confirm just how my senior season went. But once I got the offer, obviously super excited. Growing up in Eastern Iowa, being a huge Hawks fan my whole life, it was kind of a dream come true. So from there on, there really wasn't too many other options. I knew right away, that was the place for me, as a home run.
For sure. And, you get here, you redshirt, and then your first season on the field, that's the season you guys go 12-0, right? And go to the Rose Bowl. I mean, that's not a bad way to start your career at all.
No, absolutely, yeah. Just showing up and we do that. It's like, wow, this is easy. But, that was a great experience. The senior class we had, their leadership and their dedication to really impacting the program in a positive way was something that I feel has positively impacted me as an individual, and how the rest of my career has gone.
What would you say your favorite memory from that run, that season was, looking back?
There's a lot of them. We had the last second field goal over Pitt to win, I think, our third game of the year. Obviously Nebraska was fun, going 12-0, but I think when we clinched the West in week 11 against Purdue, it was like a snowy game. There's like a couple inches of snow on the field, and just it was senior day, and being able to do it for them, for all the work that they put in, clinch the West and clinch an opportunity to win the Big Ten title, was something I'll remember. For
sure. And all of a sudden, you're about to be a senior, redshirt senior. Has it gone by quickly for you, or were you able to kind of take in each year for what it was?
It's gone extremely fast, and it seems like every year it goes faster and faster. You're a young player, you're trying to prove yourself, and you think, it's always an uphill battle, or I got time, and honestly, you don't. Like, it just goes by so fast, and you just want to cherish the time you got to be able to do this, and really make the most of this opportunity.
Do you have any favorite memories, maybe off the field? Just being a student here in Iowa City, we know. It's a school where people like to have fun, and it's a very easy town to have a good time. Do you have any experience with your teammates or anything off the field that really stands out when you look back?
I mean, I've always been fortunate. I've lived with my teammates. I hung out with a lot of my teammates away from the building. And I say that's what makes the most fun. Whether we're here at the facility, meet and lift and stuff like that, or back at our houses and playing cards, watching TV, just laughing, joking. That's the stuff that's really made my college football experience really special, is the people I've met and the times I've got to spend with them.
Who are the guys you lived with?
Sam Brinks, Anthony Nelson, and John Milani. I've lived with a couple other guys. Riley McCarron graduated. Brandon Bishop, other guys on the team, Jake Hewlett. But just all of them, and I think I've been fortunate to be close friends with a lot of guys on the team that we spend time away from the building, and that's what we like to do.
Is it like a football house, or is it an apartment? What's the situation?
It's a house, but it wasn't. We moved there my first year. We moved off campus.
Okay.
But hopefully, maybe we'll start a little legacy, pass it down to younger guys.
I'm sure you guys keep it, super clean, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So we'll talk a little bit football now before we wrap up, Parker. When the media and a lot of experts talk about the Big Ten West, first team that comes to mind is Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. You guys are the only team to really unseat Wisconsin for that trip to Indy these last 4 years. Why do you believe that you guys can do it again this year?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Wisconsin, they deserve the credit they get. They're an extremely physical team, and they do things the right way, and you have to respect that. But I think the way we've been preparing this year, and the confidence we have in our guys, and we're going to show up each and every week. There's no one that we're we feel inferior to, or we're worried about that we got to play out outside of our boundaries. So we're going to show up, we're going to treat that week just like every other, and we're going to come in, give them our best shot.
All right, Parker. So we will wrap up now with some lighter questions. Just kind of rapid fire, and hopefully have some fun with it. first off, linemen are kind of an interesting bunch, and I feel like they have more like rituals and weird like things off the field than most other groups. So does your D-line have any sort of rituals or things like pregame, anything like that as a unit that you guys do?
Maybe off the field, the defensive line, we've bought a camper. We bought a 1976 RV camper. So that's something sometimes off the field, we'll take it around.
Isn't there a name for it? I've heard of this.
Yeah, we call it the rat trap.
That's it, yeah.
Because Coach Morgan, he's told this story, so we refer to ourselves as the sewer rats in the D-line, so we call it the rat trap.
That's pretty good. Any interesting stories from the rat trap that are safe for the podcast?
Like I said, the fun thing about it is it makes the drive to wherever we're going much more enjoyable. We can sit and laugh and joke with each other, not be squeezed in, D-line, some big body guys, so we like to have some space.
So one thing I noticed walking around Kinnick Stadium earlier today, and one thing I know that's been a big deal is the Tiger Hawk on the water tower. Tell me why that's a big deal and kind of how that came about, because I know a lot of people are excited about that. Yeah,
the fan base is super excited. We finally got the Tiger Hawk. The water tower's been there for as long as I can remember, obviously. It's even on, you go back and play with old NCAA games, it's got the water tower there in the background of Kinnick. So, that's something I think the fans have always asked, why don't we get a Tiger Hawk up there? If you can see it from Kinnick, you might as well decorate it. So, obviously everybody's pleased we finally got one up.
Yeah, it's been funny to me on social media, just like the reaction to it. I've really enjoyed seeing the local reaction here. All right, so this one, might be a loaded question, but which rival do you enjoy beating more, Iowa State or Nebraska?
That's a tough call. We take all of our trophy games really seriously. Growing up in the state of Iowa, maybe in my hometown, there's a little more. I'll run into the outcome of that game more. Mm-hmm. But meeting guys on the team from Nebraska, that's something we definitely just talk trash about where each other is from all the time. So that's a game that we know they're going to take serious, and I think it's becoming a really good rivalry.
It's a veteran answer, very diplomatic. You've been doing the media circuit long enough now, you know how to answer. All right, so I read an article about you getting ready for this interview in the Cedar Rapids Gazette by Mark Morehouse. An anecdote that I really got a kick out of. It said you cried when the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers because you wanted them to draft an offensive lineman instead. And that's just got to be an all-time old takes exposed type thing.
That's a true statement. I was a huge still am a huge Packers fan. I was really in tune with the team, but I didn't really have the whole grasp of the future building aspect at that point. We had Brett Favre, loved him. Always idolized Brett Favre, and I thought, we needed an offensive lineman or a safety. That's the holes we needed to win the Super Bowl the next year, and we took Aaron Rodgers, and I broke down crying. I think I was like 8 years old. Turns out, great decision. Obviously, I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan now, so glad they did it.
Yeah, and that's a thing about Aaron Rodgers. It's like, I'm a Bears fan, and I tried to hate him when I was coming up, growing up, and he's just beating me down. I can't even hate the guy. He's an awesome guy off the field. Amazing quarterback, just does things that are impossible outside of him and a couple other people. Right. So I can't even hate on Aaron Rodgers anymore. And I saw you're a Brewers fan too. Is that right?
Also a Brewers fan, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna need the Brewers to stay a little bit in the rearview mirror. They're getting a little too close to my Cubs, So hopefully you guys can let off the gas a little bit.
Well, we've been trying to let off the gas the last few months here. So
I will say I prefer the Brewers over the Cardinals. So take care of the Cardinals for us. I'll do that.
I can agree with that.
All right, so we'll end there, Parker. Really appreciate your time. Best of luck this season, and thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, thanks once again to Parker for joining me, and we'll keep moving along here on the Take 10 podcast to Champaign, Illinois. We talked to Illinois newly converted wide receiver, Justice Williams. He changed positions from linebacker to wide receiver, which is obviously a move you don't see all that often in football. So we got into that transition and his background, and had a fun discussion with Mr. Williams. So we'll get right into that. It's Take 10's chat with Illinois wide receiver Justice Williams, and it starts right now. All right, I'm very pleased to be joined here in Champaign, Illinois, following Fighting Illini football practice by Illinois junior wide receiver Justice Williams. Justice, what's up, man? Thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here.
Absolutely, and I introduced you there as a wide receiver, but that's like kind of a new moniker for you. You're an upperclassman, but you haven't officially been a wide receiver until this year because you switched from linebacker. So you're still getting used to that, that designation as a wide receiver here?
Right, yeah, it's definitely a big switch. I remember always going home, and all my friends used to tell me, man, you're looking a little beefy, because I was always trying to be kind of a bulkier linebacker, and now it's like every time they see me, I'm really slimmed out now. Even around people here, it's still kind of weird now, even sitting on different sides of meeting rooms and whatnot, but it's definitely a change I've really enjoyed so far.
Yeah, so tell me, how did the switch come about? Because from what I've heard, it kind of started as one of these joking things. You know how you always see it when inside the huddle type stuff, guys are like, come on, coach, let me get a rep in or whatever. So is that kind of how it started, and then how did it become a serious switch for you? Yeah,
that's pretty much how it was. So one of the guys, we used to play here, Jeff George, he's currently in Michigan, but him and I used to always joke around, and I used to always tell him, man, Jeff, if I go play some receiver, it's going down. And I'm not really sure what happened, but I remember I was sitting in one of our academic counselor's offices, and I got a text from Coach Nickerson asking me if I could go play a little scout team receiver this week, because it was an all-nickel week for us, and I was the Sam, so when nickel happens, Sam comes out, nickel goes in. So I was pretty much scheduled to play minimal to no reps. He goes, hey, we need some receiver help on the offense. Can you go help out a little bit? And I remember our defensive line GA, Joe Fotu, he was hyping me up all week and had a couple good practices. And the next thing I know, went up to Coach Smith's office, said it, and he was like, you know what, actually, we might actually move to receiver. Called him over Christmas break, and it was a thing.
Did you make, was there anything in practice where, you kind of opened some eyes a little bit, where people were like, okay, this dude's serious about it?
It was kind of a jump ball, it was a fade, and they threw it up, and then I got it one hand, and that's kind of when the noise started. It was cool.
You Odell'd it then.
Oh, definitely Odell'd it. It wasn't as cool as that one, but yeah, it could be up there.
All right, soon enough though, you'll be snatching them out of the air with one hand.
That's the plan.
So yeah, just schematically, what goes into learning a new position? Especially one, as a wide receiver, you got to be so precise with everything with your routes. What goes into that transition?
My biggest thing it sounds really dumb, but it's stopping at linebacker. Don't get me wrong, you have to be really athletic, really physical. You got to do a lot of things, but just play receiver. It's a bigger, different switch. I'm running a whole lot more now. I have to be able to read coverage instead of playing them, which personally I think is harder. And then, like I said before, my biggest thing that I know I had problems with was learning how to stop it, whether that's a curl, a comeback, a hitch, whatever it is. Throwing my weight down and working on coming back to the ball is something I've struggled with for a little bit.
All right, well, you're not the only new guy to this offense. Rod Smith, the offensive coordinator, has actually been around this offense for less time than you have. So, does it help to at least kind of start on that ground floor with him as he's getting into his first year here in Champaign?
Absolutely. I remember actually when the switch happened and I realized that we were going to have a new OC, that was one thing that I was excited about, that we were all essentially at a level playing field. We had a new OC, so he had no prior, what's the word I'm looking for? Prior knowledge of what anyone has done. He just had a little bit of film he looked at. Everyone had to learn from scratch, learn from ground zero. So going in that way, I felt like I was at playing ground with everyone, and then from that point on, it was just playing football.
So what has he kind of brought to this place? Because being out there, he was getting on guys. It seems like he was demanding a lot out of you guys. Not in a bad way, but it seems like there's been a lot of buzz surrounding what he's bringing to Champaign. So from your perspective, what has he brought to this program?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the other OC was like, because obviously I was on defense. But just from looking at Coach Smith, I can just tell that he demands greatness. He always wants us to be the best, whether that's in a walkthrough that's not really a walkthrough. He always wants you moving a little fast. He wants you being precise. He doesn't want you doing anything lackadaisical. He doesn't want you to develop any kind of bad habits. So he's always precise when things we do, and I think that in the long run is really going to help us out.
For sure. All right, we're going to transition a little bit into your background. Most of these guys I bring on, I try to get into their backgrounds a little bit, their roots. And you're a Texas guy, just like our head coach, head coach Lovie Smith, right?
Best country in the world, right?
There you go. I've actually that's a good one. Never heard that. So tell me about growing up in Texas. I'm sure football is king down there, and what's it like growing up? And then how does a school like Illinois enter into your decision-making process?
Growing up in Texas, it's football-wise, personally, I think it believes all the hype. Football is, like I said in the movie, it's like a religion in Texas. It's to say the least, a big deal. So growing up, being able to play in big stadiums in front of big crowds, and always having the pressure of, man, Friday Night Lights, all this and all that, all the movies that have been staged in Texas football. So then coming here, and then people ask me, wow, Friday nights was really a thing. I'm like, yeah, man, it's a big deal in Texas. And then coming here, For me, the biggest change was actually playing cold football games, which again sounds kind of dumb, but it was something that took a little adjusting to. But I mean, college football-wise, playing in the Big Ten up here, whether you're in the South playing in the Big 12 or up here playing in the Big Ten, it's still great football.
So how did Illinois get on your radar then, growing up down there?
I remember I made my highlight tape on a Monday, and it was Alex Golish was here. He's now at Iowa State. Yep. He gave me a call and offered me on a Wednesday, and they were my first offer. So I think them being my first offer, they just had a spot in my heart, and then here I am now.
Awesome. In your bio, it said you won an AAU basketball national title back in the day. Is that
back
right?
in the day, I was a hoopster.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a hooper back then? You're kind of a big dude, so I can see it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I was like LeBron James out there, but I was that guy. I'd guard the other team's best player, get a rebound, make some layups. Had a decent little baseline jumper, but that was all I was good for. Our team was stacked.
So if you're over at the Arc across the street here, could you throw down if you had to?
I'd throw down if I needed to. I tried to embarrass Adam Solomon once, but it was kind of a joke, but it almost happened.
All right, well, do it for the gram.
Absolutely, do it for the gram, baby.
Also, I saw your brother plays DB for Southern Miss, or played?
Yeah, he just graduated.
Okay.
He's been done for about 6 months now.
So, that's kind of interesting dynamic. You had a defensive back, and then you're the wide receiver. How does that work out?
He thinks he can cover me. I'm not sure what's going on in his head. I hope he hears this, but no, I'd route him up.
I was going to say, do you guys ever go out run some routes or anything like that?
He tries to now, but he's a retired vet, so he says if I route him up now, if I go get something on his head, it's, oh man, you still play, I don't anymore.
You burn him though, you think?
Oh, absolutely, wouldn't be close.
All right, well hopefully he does hear this. You guys can settle at Thanksgiving. All right, so now that you're at Illinois, I saw you're a College of Business student, is that right?
Yeah, I actually just finished my undergrad.
Awesome.
So I finished, about a year early, so in the fall I'll start my grad school.
And what are you getting a graduate degree in?
Master of Science in Business Administration,
okay.
So it's also still in the business school.
So what's this career path you're kind of trying to take? A business school at Illinois, it's very prestigious. So
so eventually I'd like to have my own business that goes around to underdeveloped and developing countries and helps them what's called learn to live sustainably.
Okay, and how have you, kind of, crafted that dream here? Is there any experience kind of, led to that goal for you, or how did that come about?
It was kind of getting away from home, and then the first few times, I've actually traveled out to country. I took a trip with a group called VESA.
Okay.
I went to Fiji, and I was able to do a homestay with a family, and then we helped out with school, hung out with kids for a week, and then the next week we were just hanging out in Fiji, and that experience really opened my eyes and made me realize that's something I want to do.
That's awesome, dude. What's the workload been like, I guess, being in the College of Business, balancing that as a student athlete?
It's definitely something to think about. I mean, to sit down at night and to actually have time to do homework, have the tutors, have everything I need is a big deal. So it's something that definitely takes a lot of balance. But with all the help that we have, the resources in front of us, it's manageable.
For sure. All right, shifting gears a little bit. In the last year or so, this whole Liddyville phenomenon has sprung up.
Liddyville.
We're sitting in Liddyville right now. For those who don't know, it's kind of become a viral hashtag. It's been what Champaign is designated as to recruits and players, and it's got its own merchandise line. So kind of explain how this came about, what this phenomenon means to those who might not be acquainted with the concept here.
Liddyville is really just a thing. It's get excited about what's happening here, really get happy about it. And if I'm correct, I think it started in a meeting one day with Coach Ward and the guys were in there, and I think one of them jokingly said, "Man, it's Liddyville here." And then the next thing you know, Coach Ward and them had a hat, and then there were shirts in the bookstore, and now everywhere I go out, some kid somewhere is wearing a Liddyville t-shirt, kid on Twitter is tweeting #Liddyville, so clearly Coach Ward and all those guys did their job, and it's really getting people excited.
It's crazy that stuff takes off nowadays, social media and all that, and now it's like a recruiting tool. It's hilarious. All right, we're going to wrap up here, Justice. A couple more questions. So I was doing some research on you for this interview, and in the News Gazette, a former workplace, shout out, so you said your favorite places to go are pizza places in Champaign, but you don't like New York or Chicago.
Yeah, my handwriting is really up. It's unfortunate how bad I write. I meant to say I hate deep dish and I like New York style. Okay.
I was gonna say what kind of pizza? You got.
Yeah, because I read that, I was like, no, that means I pretty much don't like pizza.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. What falls into those categories?
I'm a huge New York style fan. Not a huge fan of the thick cheese and the sauce on top of the pizza. No, absolutely not.
Okay. Any other pizza spots in Champaign?
Antonio's was here for a while.
My favorite spot was
left.
Antonio's,
Yeah.
and then when it closed, well, I think Crack's there now. I refuse to go to Crack. And
R.I.P. Antonio's.
I heard Crack's fantastic, so I think I might be missing out, but I'm not giving in.
You can just go to the Crack truck. They still got a truck.
Absolutely.
So do that. Any other pizza spots that you enjoy here?
Vinny's is alright. I went to Vinny's the other day. Vinny's isn't too bad.
I think Vinny's is like the same owner as Antonio's or something
Is
like
it?
that. I think so.
It may have been why. Yeah, but
that's
yeah,
why
it
it's
just
similar.
opened down the street. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we'll wrap up with one final football question, Justice. What does a step forward for Illinois look like in 2018? You know, Lovey's building this thing from the ground up. A lot of youth last year. You're one of the upperclassmen on this team. So how does this program continue to move forward in the right direction?
We just got to keep believing in our coaches and believing in us. You can even tell this year that our trust and our faith and our belief in each other has gone up a notch. The younger guys that were young freshmen last year have now had the experience that we need, so they're playing like upperclassmen. They're playing like their experienced vets, which we need. So this year, I think we're going to take leaps and bounds from what we did last year. I'm really excited for what the future holds for us.
All right, man. Well, you guys look good out there. Excited for what's to come. Appreciate you sitting down with me today, and best of luck going forward.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks once again to Justice Williams for joining me. And so we've got a couple more interviews to get to. We'll keep it moving. And we'll head on over to West Lafayette, Indiana, where I spoke once again, actually, with Purdue running back DJ Knox. DJ is the only recurring guest that we've done on the bus tour. Talked to him last year in the 2017 tour and caught up with him once again for this year's episode. And it was kind of cool to talk to him about his progression from a year ago, kind of overcoming some uncertainty that we talked about, how that Purdue program has turned around. And it's kind of nice to have a follow-up with one of the players, because as much as I like meeting new players at each stop, you know, it was cool to see how far DJ's come. So we'll get to that right now. It's Take 10's discussion with Purdue running back DJ Knox.
All right, very pleased to be joined here in West Lafayette, Indiana, following Purdue Boilermakers practice by senior running back DJ Knox, who was also the first BTN bus tour recurring guest because we had him on last year as well. So, DJ, welcome back to the show, man.
Oh, thank you. Good to be back.
Absolutely, man. So you came on last year at a time that I'm sure in your life and like in the state of this program was much more uncertain. You know, you were coming off an ACL injury. You had a first-year head coach last year. So I imagine you're in a little more of a stable spot this year than you were a year ago today.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Coming into last year, it was a lot of questions to be answered. A lot of people were wondering, if we were going to be, good this year and what changes we were going to make and who was going to play here and there. And, it's good now, after we've, got that head start and got a little momentum going. Now it's just building on top of the little things and the little details. So we're in a more comfortable spot, so to say. But, we could always do better. We could always build on the things that we've began to start. So, it's all good now.
How about personally for you? You got a healthy season under your belt, coming off that injury. How do you feel knowing that you can still get out there and still produce?
Oh yeah, that was one of the better and more enlightening things about last season for me. First and foremost is because I came back and I honestly felt like that was probably my best season statistically, and I was a little bit more focused, a little bit more mature. So some of the things that I seen as I sat out, I began to be more comfortable with these things and I started to incorporate them in my game, and they all started to work for me and things started to get better. So it's just building on the small details more than anything for me now. Yeah,
and last year when we talked, we talked a little bit about your academics, got into your background. I remember you told me, I think you were a double major and you had a sales-related study, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine that, after last year we kind of had you sell Purdue football to me. I had you give a sales pitch. I imagine this year it's a little easier to sell Purdue football than it was a year ago today, isn't it?
Oh, yes, most definitely. Especially with the things like, the new facilities and, our playbook and things like that. And people starting to notice, because people like the trickery, the playbooks, the throwbacks and all of the misfits and stuff like that it creates for defenses. So, it's definitely something that's not hard to sell. And, with our great coaching staff and, strength and training staff and everything, we've done a lot better in the past, and now we're just building on those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the trick plays and the open playbook that your coach Jeff Brom has, because I had to ask you, why does Jeff Brom call a football game like it's the rest of us playing Madden, man? I swear, it's what you do in Madden, and they would never do that in a real game. That's what he does. I feel like on the field. Why does he call a game like that?
He's a guy who likes to have fun, and just like you said, nobody would ever call that in a real game. So nobody would ever expect it. So, I mean, it works almost 100% of the time. So, he keeps the game, he keeps it live, and he keeps it fun. He makes it more than just work for football, because once you get to this level, it's more a lot of the X and the O's and doing this and that making sure you read keys and this and that, and he kind of messes with those type of things with a defense, and he makes it fun, and it's kind of like backyard football almost at sometimes. So I kind of like that about his play calling and stuff like that. So I really, I can't wait till, we get into the season and we have a lot more for people.
I was going to say, why do you think more coaches don't do that? More risks being taken, that kind of fun style of play. Why do you think that Brohm's kind of revolutionary in that way?
Coach Brohm is a guy who kind of lives on the edge almost. I mean, figuratively, I'm speaking. He, kind of
right.
lives on the edge with his, play calling, and, he's a very aggressive guy. And, he's not like most play callers who like, I don't know. If it crosses his mind, we're going with it.
Right.
And, he has that confidence. And when you see your head coach have that type of confidence and he's calling the plays, you as the player, you having the same type of confidence. You're like, okay, he believes it, so I believe it. So, that's one thing that I've admired about Coach Brown.
Definitely. And I guess it's interesting because a year ago, like we've said, it was so different. Just the mentality around the program, not a lot of people on the outside didn't really believe that Purdue football could do what they did last year. So for me, it was when I saw you guys play Louisville and you pushed Lamar Jackson to them to the edge in Indy and almost pulled that upset off. That's kind of when I knew things would be different last year for Purdue football. When did you know that things were going to be different as far as the results on the field go?
Well, in camp, he brought a whole new aura to the team. And, we started to be a totally different program. And just like you said with the Louisville game, I feel like that's when it clicked for everybody. At this point, everybody knew, like, okay, we can contend with the best. So, coming off a game like that, we had the momentum and everybody started to believe in the system, and we knew exactly what we needed to be, and guys were more comfortable with, the techniques and everything that we needed to do. So, I felt like at that point, that's when I knew that, we were ready to go. Right.
Now we're sitting, you kind of referenced it earlier, in the brand new, sparkling Purdue football facility. It's beautiful. It's state-of-the-art. We're in a running back room right now, which is a meeting room just for running backs. And, a lot of schools don't have this type of stuff. So what's your favorite part about this new facility? I know there's probably a lot of amenities for players that you guys like to take advantage of. So give me your favorite thing about this place.
I would have to say, this is just so hard to choose one.
You can list a couple things too.
Okay, well, I definitely like the sound system in the locker room now. It's like so nice. Like the speakers are built in like all around the locker room and the bathrooms, everything. So like whenever you playing a song, it's everybody in the locker room gets so hyped because it sounds so good. It feels like you're in a music studio. But I would probably say my favorite is maybe the movie theater room. Because sometimes we bring our game systems in there. And everybody will have like a tournament. We'll play the game in there. You could go to sleep in there in between classes. And the fridge with snacks is in there. So, you walk right out, eat something, take a nap. So I definitely say maybe the players' lounge and the movie theater.
I was saying when we walked in, like, I would never want to go home if I, got to hang out in this place all the time.
Oh, yeah. I probably spend maybe double the amount of time here than I do at my actual house.
What's the video game of choice in that lounge?
Either Fortnite or Madden.
Dude, Fortnite is sweeping the world pretty much because I swear it's come up almost on every stop. Like, all you guys love Fortnite. I swear.
Oh yeah. And the crazy thing is you can play with your friends, and we can play right next to each other, especially with all the TVs in the players' lounge. So that's usually how it happens.
Yeah, that's what's up. So obviously this facility is much different than in previous years. How about Ross-Ade Stadium? You guys had some great crowds last year. There's kind of some buzz, some energy back in that place. Hadn't been there for a while. I'm just curious, what kind of difference does that make to a player that's out in the field in a game like football where, you really do have to get up to perform well, and just playing in front of, those sold-out, passionate crowds as opposed to a dead stadium? What kind of difference does that make for someone like you?
I know for me, I'm a guy who feeds off of energy. Sometimes I'm the guy who starts the energy, but it's a lot easier to get the team going when they get that type of juice behind them. And, once you hear that crowd roaring, and it just gives you chills down your body, and at that point, you want to do better and you want to do more. And, bringing that type of juice to the stadium has helped us out tremendously. And I'm pretty sure, because usually other teams used to use it against us, but now coming into our home, we use it against other teams. And as a player for Purdue, I'm really thankful to our fans and our crowd that give us that type of juice, and I just love it.
So I heard you guys got a new train horn this year. Have you heard about this? The train whistle that goes off.
Uh-huh.
Do you know there's a new one this year?
Oh, no, well, I'm just not learning about it now.
I heard about it recently too, and apparently it's like way louder than the last one.
Okay.
So
well,
it's you got to make that thing go off a few times this year to test it out a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. Scoring touchdowns and big plays and stuff like that. So I'm definitely geeked to hear it.
Absolutely. Another thing that is kind of unique about this season for you, this training camp especially, is the BTN camera crew that's been around for the show Gold and Black Days, kind of the Hard Knocks style documentary series that's being produced around you guys. What's that been like just as a player? I'm sure it's different from most football experiences you've ever had. What's it like having a camera crew kind of around here in your face in practice and following you guys around?
It's actually quite fun, and I'm glad that we've had the opportunity to do it because, when these guys are around, whenever you getting taped and things like that, they catching all of the moments that a lot of people don't see. And, all the fun that we have with each other, and you get to see guys like some dudes come out of their shell when the cameras come on, and they, we hype a dude up, be like, hey, say what's up to your mama, and he get all high. You never see him act like that, but when the cameras come out and they show themselves, and it's actually a fun experience. And for me, I'm glad that it happened because people got to see the hard work that we put in, but also the fun that we have as teammates.
Do you guys get together to watch the episodes together, or is it like something you just watch on your own?
Yeah, we pretty much watched it. So we all watched the first episode in the dining court, our little athlete dining court. We watched the first episode, and people Snapchatting you, hitting you up on Twitter and stuff, and hitting you up on Instagram like, hey, I just saw you.
That's great.
And I was like, yeah, man,
And like kind of what you said about the personality stuff, I couldn't tell, like this by far I think was the most like engaging a coaching staff, and like the players reciprocating that. It's the most I've seen on all these stops. And like the coaches were making the players laugh and vice versa, and it's making me laugh, on the sidelines. I couldn't tell if it's like just for the cameras or just because that's how the personality of this team is, but I figure it's probably a little mixture of both.
Well, the crazy thing is this is literally just how we are. Like our coaches, especially, we got some coaches who are just straight characters. Mm-hmm. And, especially like Coach Barkley and Coach Shep, they always making jokes and, just messing around and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not all business with them sometimes, and you can tell that they actually love us and they engage with us and stuff like that, which is, hard to find sometimes with, a lot of coaches in this type of business because, you move around so much. But, these are just genuine guys, and they've given us a chance to see them in their pure form, and we've given them a chance to see us in our pure form. So, I mean, it's all good.
Did you guys have to go through like any sort of media training? Like, did the coaches give you any ground rules about like what you can say when the cameras are on, or is it just kind of let it ride out there?
That's the crazy part. Greg Brom was basically like have a little fun and give the cameras a show. So we was like, okay, and I mean everybody around here pretty much understands what we're trying to do. So guys wouldn't do anything to hurt the program or hurt themselves or hurt their own brand. You get what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily guys just trying to act out. I mean, everybody knows what you can and can't say, but I felt like that was something that didn't even need to be discussed. Everybody pretty much knew.
I feel you. DJ, before we wrap up, one more question, because I listened to our old conversation, and I'm curious as to how your music take has evolved from last summer to this. I asked last summer what the album of 2017 was. Been a lot of hot music dropping this summer. I want to know what's your favorite album or song of this summer in 2018, and we'll see if it aligns with what I've been listening to lately here on the road.
As of lately, albums. I don't even have my phone. Well, I can tell you right now, the latest one I've been listening to on repeat is probably Astro World. Right, I
was going to say, that's what I had written down.
Yeah,
Astro World's been good. I didn't get really a chance to listen until we were driving around this bus, but I really liked it. It was good.
Astro World. Drake.
I'm a big Drake fan.
Oh yeah, I've been listening to the Drake. He got a couple songs.
I didn't think the album as a whole was like amazing, but like the bangers on there.
Yeah, like I'll say the song there's like 2 songs I listen to on the album, and my favorite's probably After Dark.
Okay.
You know, because, you know, it got a nice little vibe to it. But pretty much I just been listening to singles and, you know, people just dropping, you know, little songs. But Astro World's probably the best right now.
All right. Well, DJ, it's been fun, man. Glad we can catch up again. Glad things have gone so well for you and the team in the last 365 days. Ooh, wait, what?
Ooh, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
J. Cole.
J. Cole?
Oh, yeah.
You're a J. Cole guy?
Yeah,
Okay.
J. Cole.
I like J. Cole. I feel like I haven't heard his stuff as much recently.
Yeah.
But I might need to get on that again. And I'm glad that, you know, you had to get that in because you got excited about that when it came to your mind. But I'll let you go now, man. I appreciate you sitting down with me. And like I said, really impressed with what you guys have built. And I wish you the best of luck in your senior year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks once again, DJ, for joining me. Had fun talking to him both years on the BTN bus tour. And now we'll send it up to Evanston, Illinois for the wrap-up interview of the 2018 BTN Take 10 podcast bus tour edition, where I spoke with Northwestern lineman Tommy Doles. And Tommy, as you can hear in just a moment here, is a very bright dude. Had a lot to talk about, a lot to say, and it was just very enjoyable sitting down with him and chopping it up. So we will get into that interview, final interview of this year's bus tour with Northwestern's Tommy Doles.
All right, very pleased to be joined on the last stop of the BTN bus tour in Evanston, just after Northwestern football practice, by Wildcats redshirt senior offensive lineman Tommy Doles. Tommy, what's up, man? How's it going?
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, glad to be here. Glad you were suggested because I've been watching some YouTube videos on you. You're a very good speaker. Very sharp guy. So it should be fun here. And I feel like every stop, just to start off, I always bring up like facilities because so many stops on the BTN bus tour, the first thing they do is show off these new facilities. And I can't just sit here in this new facility at Northwestern and not bring it up. This beautiful venue you guys have. So just right off the bat, I'll ask, what was your reaction when they walked you into this lakefront facility for the first time?
Yeah, I think my jaw dropped a little bit. Wow was probably my first reaction. And then it was gratitude, just thinking about the Ryans, Wilsons, Slotnicks, all the different families that invested in us. It's touching to know that we have a community and an administration that and is going to support us like this. So it was very impressive, though. And I'm happy I got 1 year in it because it was under construction for a while. They had it's really an engineering marvel, I guess. It's really, they drill into the bedrock with these caissons and prop this up almost on stilts because we're right on the water. So it took them a while to do it. But I got it for my 5th year, so here we are.
Yeah, you just made the cutoff, and we're sitting in your brand new offensive line meeting room right now. That's another thing for me. Like, I'm doing these interviews, and this year I've had more space to do them because all these facilities are open up across the Big Ten. So, obviously it's beautiful in here, but can you kind of compare it to what you had to deal with before you moved in here for your redshirt senior year?
Yeah, I think there's kind of 2 parts that I love about this new facility. The first is the views. I think growing up in West Michigan, our family would go out to Lake Michigan, Holland, Grand Haven, and I loved Lake Michigan, and now it's something that I see every morning. And it used to be, on special occasions I might come and try to watch the sunrise here, but now we see it every day eating breakfast during our lifts. So it's just an unmatched location. But the other thing is that it's very functional. That's something that they really put a lot of time and effort into, is making sure that it works well for us, that it is going to help us pursue our goals. I think having more space, a smarter layout, we have our nutrition equipment, athletic training, meeting rooms, all in a very in close proximity, so it works well. And the offensive line room, I think position meeting rooms are where football players spend maybe more time than anywhere else in their facilities. So having these comfortable chairs, nice projector, plenty of space, it's great.
And you guys can legit go out and do workouts on the beach. I heard you guys this summer actually did some stuff on the beach, right?
Yeah. You walk right out the door and guys would do some rehab work, or you can just go and have some fun in the waves. So that's the cool thing. College football, as I'm in my last year, I'm recognizing that the brotherhood, the camaraderie is something it's probably the most special part of this whole experience. So just having more spaces where we can enjoy each other's company and fellowship. We've got the lake, got the beach, so go out there after work out and have some fun.
That's awesome. And they took us through a tour earlier before practice, and one of the things I noticed was the cafeteria and kind of the nutrition areas. So you're offensive lineman. You got to keep your weight up. What's some of your favorite food that you have access to now in here?
Ooh, I think the breakfast hash browns are so good. They're to die for, but great fruit. It's always so fresh. And I love the staff that works here. I mean, the chef came up and asked me, hey, any suggestions? Give me a challenge. What should we make? And I'm like, how about some chicken enchilada? You think you can do that? And a couple weeks later, I've got this delicious chicken enchilada.
Wow.
So I think it's every day the food is delicious. Levy, Compass, they do a great job. And the staff. I've gained some weight just in the new facility. I think credit a lot of that to the food that we've had. It's delicious, and it helps us become better football players.
Yeah, I might have to get a to-go box on the way out of here. Yeah. We'll see. So we'll talk a little bit more Northwestern-specific stuff here in a little bit, but I also like to get into the backgrounds with these athletes that I get to talk to at each stop. And we're going to start with you at the very beginning because in your bio I saw you were born on Christmas Day. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. So I've always wondered with the Christmas Day babies, is it better for the whole Christmas present situation? Because I've always kind of felt bad, for those kids that kind of have their birthdays around Christmas, that they kind of get all lumped in with the gift situation there.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's one of the first things people ask me. But I think I had the perfect situation because what we did in my family was we'd celebrate Christmas on the 25th, and we're from a Christian family. That means a lot to me. I think it's just amazing what we celebrate that day. But then on June 25, my half birthday, that's when I'd celebrate my birthday. So I had the presents perfectly dispersed and kind of had a fun day in the summer, but also could maybe get a cake or some small present on Christmas Day too. So it was probably the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's a pretty good solution there. You get the half birthday celebration, do it big. All right, so you're coming up as a kid. You grew up in Michigan, like you said, in Grand Rapids, and you come from a big-time sports family, right? You're walking in today. Tell me about your dad, and I think you have some athletes in your family as well. So tell me those sports connections, about those, and what that's meant to you.
So I think the most important connection is with my dad. He's the sports director for the NBC affiliate in West Michigan, Wood TV8, Jack Doles News 8, you might know him as, in West Michigan. But so I grew up around sports, grew up loving sports, and not just the fact that they were fun to play, but also one thing my dad did was highlight stories that show the impact that sports can have on lives, communities, and on society. And so I think I saw the value of sports for bringing communities together and for teaching character lessons. And I kind of got a big view of sports and what they can do. And then I also have some relatives aunts played D1 volleyball. My older cousin Kyle played offensive line at Iowa State. So when I was in, I think, middle school, I was watching him and really looked up to him and saw college football from that angle. And I think that's one of the things that made me really want to play college football someday.
Awesome, yeah. And it should be no surprise then that you've ended up here. But maybe, for a Michigan kid, you see a lot of those guys go to their state schools. So how does a kid from Grand Rapids who would go on to be, an all Big Ten offensive lineman like yourself get out from under the nose of Michigan and MSU and end up here in Evanston?
Yeah, and so Michigan was my first offer, and obviously it's a storied institution with great people there. But it was early in the recruiting process, and for me, before I really wanted to play college football, I was dreaming of going to one of the service academies. So I wasn't ready to just commit right away because I was still trying to figure out, do I want to go to West Point, Navy, Air Force? And so I kept my recruiting process open and eventually narrowed it down to Army, Michigan, and Northwestern. And I think just being able to step back and look at what really matters to me in my experience, getting great advice from my dad, my family, other guys who have played college football, realizing that it's about the people, it's about what this experience can do for the rest of your life. So seeing Northwestern, the proximity to Chicago, the academics, and the way that sets you up and connects you to an amazing network, And also Coach Fitz, the guys on the team. I was really drawn to the culture here. My dad's from the Chicagoland, so I had some family here, so it still felt like I was close to home. And because, yeah, it's tough. I think a lot of people in Michigan, West Michigan, will either go to a smaller school, or if they can go D1, they want to stay home. But I think it broadened my horizons, and I have no regrets about coming here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the academics. I know academics is a big focus of yours. You're a political science major, correct? How'd you become interested in that field? I know you just talked about your interest in service academies, but what do you want to do with that degree after football, after your career is over?
Yeah, so I came into college with kind of a broad interest in history, government, international affairs, and saw that political science was a way that I could kind of combine my love for those things into an academic discipline. And I really have come to be passionate about the things I've been studying, and just looking at international security structures and situations. And I could talk about that stuff all day, but so I graduated with my undergrad degree in June, and then I'm going to be starting my master's in Kellogg, Northwestern's business school. And that's going to be putting a kind of a business wrapping around my undergrad studies. And even though I didn't go to Northwestern, my dream has always been to go to officer candidate school with the Army. So at least tentatively, the plan is to play football as long as I can. And then after that, attend Army officer school, serve as an officer in the Army, using the things I've learned about international security structures and power, politics, and serving for a while in that capacity. Also, I'm drawn to that just because of the leadership aspect and being able to invest in younger soldiers and be a part of something bigger than myself. I love being a part of a team. After that, few things could happen. I could see myself going to law school, interest in politics, or another road would be seminary and Christian ministry. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but I think I know the next few steps.
Sounds like you got a lot of great options, yeah. And that's definitely an admirable pursuit that you're taking on here. I don't know if you heard about a player at Minnesota, a walk-on, who received a scholarship in the last couple weeks by Navy SEALs parachuting into Minnesota Stadium. Wow. I talked to him for the podcast last week. So, cool. Talking about, your service aspirations reminded me of my discussion with him, but I didn't know if you'd seen that. Oh. It was really cool. They legit parachuted into the stadium after practice, delivered his scholarship, and that's how he found out.
Wow,
so,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's. I feel like PJ Fleck at Minnesota, the coach there, has a lot of similar tendencies to Coach Fitz here, as far as taking care of his players and stuff like that. So it just reminded me of something that could appeal to you a little bit. But another interest of yours that I saw when I was doing some research is you're a big reader, right? I saw you have a lot of books. There's a video that was done on you. You got a big bookshelf. Tell me about some of your favorite books, some of the classics that you like to read.
Oh, yeah. I love to read. I think it can broaden your horizons so much, and there's so much to learn that I try to mix it up. I read mostly nonfiction, try to throw in a fiction book every once in a while. I'm reading a book called All the Light We Cannot See right now.
I've heard of that one.
You've heard it? Yeah, it's a great one. It's pretty popular right now. It follows two young people during World War II. And but no, I read kind of a mix between politics, memoir, Christian apologetics, kind of a mix. Read a book called Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. That was a great one. The Locust Effect by Gary Haugen, that looks at modern-day slavery and human trafficking and some of the efforts to stop it. So I feel like every time I read, I grow a little bit. I also love learning from the stories of others, because I think so many people have lived their lives and had these experiences, and I think it's wise to try to learn from people who have gone before us. I read Colin Powell's memoir, It Worked for Me, and found some of his lessons in leadership, and because life is short, and there are some experiences that maybe we won't have, but we can learn from other people who did. So you got any recommendations, definitely let me know afterwards.
I was going to ask if you've read I think my favorite political book, 1984. You read that one?
Oh, Orwell. Some of it.
Okay.
It's on my shelf. I should read the whole thing.
It's a small book, so it shouldn't take you that long if you ever get to it. But it's one of my favorites that I can remember reading from high school. I don't read as much as I should now. I need to get on the grind like you. But it's just been coming up a lot lately for political reasons, and it's one that I highly recommend. So that's a good one. All right, Tommy, we'll wrap up with some football-related questions, probably just one or two here, so you can get out of here. But I definitely have to ask, with expectations here at Northwestern being what they are, you guys have been very successful as of late, and you guys are still, kind of slept on, I think, with Wisconsin getting to the Big Ten championship game the last several years here. So do you guys feel like that on the ground here, that you guys are being slept on, maybe in the national media and the Big Ten? Just what's your take on your guys' standing in the West Division here?
I think one of the things about our program and our team is that we believe in our ability to achieve what we want to through hard work and through discipline, and we believe that we can focus on ourselves and doing what we need to do, and that maybe it's not so productive for us to look outside of us. And the reality is we haven't won the West in my time here, and that's our goal. So I don't think it matters too much what people are saying before the season. To us, it's about the work that we put in so that we can win the West. And when that happens, then we can talk about that conversation more.
All right, we'll wrap up with one more question because we're in a little bit of a unique situation here with you guys. You're opening with Purdue in like a week here. How is the prep leading into your first game been different with a Big Ten opponent and a pretty good Big Ten opponent right off the bat here?
Yeah, I think people are excited to play a Big Ten West football game. People come here to play in the Big Ten Conference, and all of our games, the non-conference games, matter. But there's a little extra edge that you have when you're playing in your conference. So I just think there's been an extra enthusiasm, and Purdue's a great team, well coached. They played so hard last year. We could notice an amazing difference just in what they've been able to do in the past year. So I'm sure they've continued that trend and getting better. So we've got a lot of respect for them. But yeah, we've been putting in the work, and we're excited to go.
Sounds good. All right, Tommy, that's all I got for you. I really appreciate you sitting down, giving me a very insightful discussion here. Obviously, wish you the best of luck going forward, and enjoy your senior year, man.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, one more thank you. Shout out to Mo, Parker, Justice, DJ, and Tommy for joining me. Had a lot of fun talking to them and talking to all the athletes this year on the BTN bus tour. And, I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. It was a great time, and I hope you guys are as ready for football season as I am, because it is here. And this kind of, like I said at the top, puts a bow in the off season, and it's time to get into the real thing. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to following along with you guys all season long. I'll try and bring in some great guests to evaluate what we see as we move along here in the football season. We'll bring back the Stat Head segment with Harold Shelton as we had last year, and it should be a great time. So stay tuned. Check out the previous episodes of the Take 10 podcast if you haven't already. And a special shout out to Wes White and Julie Bronder, who's been producing the show lately as well. Fantastic producers here at BTN, and we'll keep it moving as we get into the Big Ten football season starting Thursday. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll talk to you next time here on the Take 10 podcast.